Everyone, LJ here, the Go Biz Guy, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Today, I've got an amazing guest, and we're going to chat about all kinds of different things. But Bill Craver is a, did I get that right?
Craver?
Craver, thank you. I don't know why I was,
Most people get Craver.
Yeah. Bill Craver is a good friend of mine, and he's got an awesome story about doing business in China and all over the world and everything. And so, Bill, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks
for inviting me.
So, listen, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up at?
Geographically, Charleston, West Virginia.
Okay.
That's where I was born.
Okay.
And, I was born at McMillan Hospital, which they promptly tore down, along with two other houses I've lived in.
Okay.
I think you're trying to tell me something.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What happened? I mean, what did you like about growing up in Charleston?
I had a wonderful childhood. My dad was a distributor of tools and fastening systems to the construction industry.
Uh-huh.
And he was very successful in that. So monetarily, we had a very good life. He did all kinds of things. I kind of modeled him in some ways. I started racing motorcycles at 12. He wanted to be with me, so he started riding motorcycles until he fell in a creek one day. That was the end of dirt riding.
Really?
He wanted to take flying lessons and considered buying a plane, so he flew and got his license, and the challenge was over. So he went on to decide he wanted to bass fish. So started with a small Starcraft walk-through windshield bass boat until he got to buying a motorhome to pull his bass boat and traveled all over the East Coast with my mom. And then he got tired of that. My mom taught ice skating for 22 years. I grew up on skates.
Wow.
Dad's first love was golf, and it was a Canal Country Club, and it was still private. And every Wednesday, him and his best friend, Calvin Harris Brothers Roofing, were on that golf course. And you couldn't bother him. He had his walkie-talkie, same one the policeman had. And I could call him and say, Dad, I need to get something out of your truck. Well, you know where it is. There's a parking spot. Go get it and don't bother me again.
He was very focused. So what did he do again? What was his profession?
Years ago, before Home Depot and Lowe's existed, in order to get things that you needed for a construction site, like tools and fastening systems, you had to send one of your workers to a supply house.
Okay.
Like Goldfarb Electric was a supply house. Well, he was the first one to take things to the job site instead of having to send workers to go pick something up, which was very costly for the contractor.
Yeah.
So he loaded his station wagon up and took it to the job site. There's a tool made for shooting nails into concrete. They're basically known as a tool called a ramset gun or a Hilti gun. And he brought the first ramset gun in here in 1957.
Oh, wow.
And that is a tool that you had to be licensed for due to the nature of shooting with a .22 caliber.
Right.
And so he had, actually, his license is the oldest one in the country, and it now sits in a museum in Chicago.
Oh, my gosh. Really?
So he brought the first Milwaukee tool in here as a distributor. He gave that line to State Electric originally.
Wow.
And I had the pleasure and honor to go tour that factory and tour Ramset's factory years later. But he was very much a unique guy and did a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So in that regard, I had a wonderful childhood because I got to experience all this different stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what did your mother do?
She was a homemaker, except for when she taught ice skating, which was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
They went to the Olympics over in Lake Placid, New York, I think, one time. They went up to that.
Okay.
Dad was a test judge for the National Figure Skating Association. Anybody that was going to advance in figure skating to compete in nationally or internationally had to go through my dad first.
Okay.
And my mom. And so that's kind of what they did. She worked for an employment agency for a while. But like in a lot of families, there's not everything's sunshine. She was an alcoholic, and she passed away as an alcoholic at age 50.
Oh, bless your heart. Wow.
Yeah, so, there's balance there.
Yeah.
You know.
And so your dad, did he remarry or anything?
He did. He married a lady down the street. She called him up one day and said, I'd like for you to come down and have a drink. And he said, I'll be right there.
No qualms
I
about
can't remember
that.
what the timeline was.
Yeah,
but
right,
it wasn't
yeah.
long after that they were married. And,
Yeah.
my dad died of Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS.
Oh, wow.
And things
How long ago?
He died in 96. 97,
Okay.
May of 97.
Okay.
The things I'll tell you about my life are going to seem, oh my God, all this is tragic, but it's really a story of love and grace at the end.
Well, thank you, because I think you're right. I think God takes away, and we don't ever understand when he takes them away
No,
or takes anything away from us.
we don't. Can't see it.
No, and then he replaces it with something better. We don't know
Yes.
that
No.
until it shows up,
Oh, let me tell you.
right?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really scary. Go ahead.
Well, he uses that. Everything has a reason. And so through all the things that I've been through, I'm able to connect with other people who are maybe going through that and am able to share what happened to me and the success out of it to hopefully give them a hope in the future. You know,
I think what we, and I told you I interviewed JB, but one of the things that we talked about is that in our society right now, we have this problem with hate and love, I guess, and issues that we need to be able to reach out to people that we disagree with.
it's true.
And
Have
I think,
the conversation.
yeah, and I think God wants us to be a little bit more friendly towards each other.
Yeah, I agree.
Than to be agnostic or pungent about our ideologies or our beliefs.
What was the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And then it says, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well,
That's a tough one.
Well, it can be, but I'm going to give you an example of something that has happened to me in recent times with all the political things that are going on.
Okay.
And, you're either on one side or the other, and there is really no middle ground. When I graduated high school in 73.
Okay.
And, 73 was a whole different world back then. All my friends,
Yes,
not all my friends, but a lot of my friends, like on Facebook as an example, are more liberal than they are conservative.
Right.
Well, I found that years ago, the last election, the presidential election, the turmoil on social media was just horrible, and it divided people a lot. So same thing with COVID. And so I found that if I were to post something political on my Facebook page, I'd lose my audience because people didn't want to hear it. They had a different opinion. Well, I quit putting anything like that on my Facebook page because, for me, social media is just sharing life together. And whether you have an idea on this or that, you're still my friend. We can have that conversation. I don't think social media is the place to have it. I think
it's interesting because I think social media. I mean, I've got lots of peeps on social media. Okay. And because of my political stance or whatever, I mean, I sometimes I stir the pot. On the other side of the coin, I got caught on it the other day, and this woman said, "You like to stir things up, don't you?" And I said, "Ah, you caught me." Okay. You know what I'm saying?
A little bit of it's fun.
It is, but I back in and then I back out and everything, and and I don't. But it's interesting. Social media is a platform that we can say things that we probably would never say to anyone's face.
Well, we have a degree of anonymity there.
Yes.
And so we tend to use that where we would not say something face to face, like you said.
Right. I mean, and some people would smack the fire out of you if you said what you said, face to face.
Yeah.
So it's a closed community, for ideologies and stuff like that.
It is.
It's interesting. I don't know what happened, but I was at a volleyball game with my granddaughter, and all of a sudden, man, they cut me off. Facebook did. I guess they put me in jail.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. Okay. I mean, I didn't say anything. I mean, I wasn't blatant. I mean, I didn't come out, but they just put me in jail. So what I had to do was interesting because I had to actually film myself to get back involved with Facebook. It wasn't, this was real. This was not a scam or anything for identity.
How long were you out?
Huh?
How long were you out?
Well, I went out from my my granddaughter's volleyball game. I went around to my car and took care of it.
Yeah.
I took my picture. I had to do all kinds of stuff. And,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
To get back in. I had no idea. So Facebook is really, I think their algorithms change all the time. And so do all of the social media. Their algorithms change all the time. So what's important today it could be termed woke.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So the whole thing is very crazy. So getting back to your childhood and everything. So did you go from high school? What'd you do what was the next step?
5 days. This is things that what I'm going to tell you are things that people don't do these days.
Okay, cool.
Being back in 1973, 5 days before I turned 18 and before I graduated, I left. There was a girl that came to my high school whose dad was transferred here with Union Carbide from Victoria, Texas.
Okay.
And I fell madly head over heels in love with her.
Okay.
And when the school year was over, they transferred him back to Victoria. So
you followed the trail.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I went down and lived in their house.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
Well, you were 18?
I was, I was 18. Yeah.
How old was she?
She was 16, I think.
Okay.
16 or 17.
That's quite an interesting story. So you had.
It gets better.
Okay, well, continue.
Well, I lived in their house. Gosh, I don't know how much to divulge on this. Like I said, it was a different world back then. I got kicked out of a town in Texas. I was told either leave town or go to jail.
Whoa! So
I didn't do anything bad. It was just things that you did at that time period, you know. And
yeah.
I went to live with a friend of mine from West Virginia that happened to live in Houston. And it was about. Let me preface this by my hair was down below the pocket on your front shirt. In a ponytail most of the time. I was living life in that day.
Yeah, so you were a Californian at heart, man, with that long hair.
Pretty much.
And you probably smoked a lot of that funny stuff, right?
That's why I was told to leave town in Texas. So I moved in with this friend of mine in an apartment in South Houston, halfway between Houston and Galveston. And I was sleeping on his couch until one night him and his wife got in an argument and something flew over my head and went through the picture window that was above the couch I was sleeping on. I said, I'll see you later. I moved in with a guy that I had met and we became friends. His name was Guy Thibodeau.
Okay.
Guy Thibodeau's dad lived in Nassau Bay, which is right across from NASA.
Okay.
Well, his dad worked in a jet propulsion lab.
Okay.
And when his dad would come home, he'd be talking about shuttle this and shuttle that, and we didn't know what in the world the man was talking about.
Right.
And he was a raging alcoholic. That's when Dotson came out with the 240Zs. I think I lived there for about a year. He had 2 or 3 of them within a year.
Wow,
he kept crashing them. He just got about another one.
Yeah.
You know, but it was really neat. That was the same place where all astronauts lived, in the same neighborhood. Never, not that I ever saw them, not that I ever really cared back then, but it was, looking back on it, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, so you didn't have any ambitions to go to college whatsoever?
No, I liked working. I went out and started working.
Okay. And what possessed you to want to work? Was it your dad's work ethic that kind of hit the nail on the head for you to like fast forward?
Even as a kid, I like hard work. Maybe I'm crazy, probably am, but I've always enjoyed hard work. I've enjoyed the satisfaction of looking at something and said, I did that. I worked hard and I achieved this, whatever this was at the time. When I was growing up, there was an empty lot next to us, and I'd go clean all the weeds off the side of the hill just because I thought it was fun. You know?
Really?
Yeah. And when I was 12,
you didn't get paid for it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are you a neat freak?
I'm an orderly freak.
Man, I tell you what, I wish I was. I'm a helter-skelter dude,
I'm
man.
OCD.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, that's good.
Look at the table.
Yeah, I know. I saw that as you were setting it up and everything.
Well, what your audience can't hear is I've got stuff laid out in the table in an order, perfectly ordered. So, yes, I'm OCD and ADD and a few other acronyms.
Well, I wish I was. I am.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
No, you're right. Exactly. I hear that. Yeah. Because I have a man cave for an apartment, and it is very man cave-ish. It's not. It has no rhyme or reason to it, but it has my rhyme or reason to it. I won't tell everybody how where the clothes are at and where they're not, and so. But
well, you just did.
Oh, yeah, I did, didn't I? So I think I don't know whether I'm organized like I should be.
Yeah.
But I can multitask a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have a female mind.
Yeah.
I have the male mind, but I've always been able to multitask.
Right.
And I think that's critical. So I think listening to your dad's history
Mm-hmm.
and your mom's history and everything, I think what's interesting with people that either don't go to college or whatever, they have this work ethic. I think it's very dominant from our past. And we talked about all these bad things that happened for a good reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the trials and tribulations that went on, okay, push you forward into those micro and macro situations to push forward.
You're absolutely right. But you also have to be able to learn from what you do, the good and the bad of it. When I was 12 years old, everybody in my neighborhood, they wanted to have a mini bike. And I wanted to have one, and my parents said, no, 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 until I bothered them to the point they said, okay, we give. And they bought me a motorcycle.
Okay.
First thing I did was rode right out the street in front of a car.
Did you really?
Yeah, I didn't get hit or anything.
Wow.
But anyway.
And they're all going, ah!
Oh, that's a whole other story you don't have time for.
Okay.
But anyway, it was a dirt bike. It was an enduro bike.
Yeah.
And I wasn't old enough to be on the street anyway, so I rode in the dirt. Well, I decided I wanted to try racing. So I went to and competed in a motocross race.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
came in second place.
Wow.
And they're going,
Never raced
and they're
in
going,
your...
really? Oh, no. I had no clue.
Wow.
And so they said, well, let's try this again and see if it's a fluke. Well, I came in the top 3 every time I got out on the track. So they decided, okay, we're going to buy you a race bike. And that was a Kawasaki 100 Green Streak. It was the first entry that Kawasaki ever had in the dirt world. And it was, you were either going 90 miles an hour or 0. And there was nothing in between. And the suspension was terrible, but I learned to ride that bike.
Like a horse.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so when I got on the next bike, which had wonderful suspension, I did really well. You know, it's like batter swinging. We talked about batter swinging 3 bats at a time. Then they pick up a light one and they hit the ball out of the park. So I did that until I was 18. But the point being is, in order for me to race, I had to maintain my own bike. And my dad was not really mechanically inclined. I didn't know if I was or not. Didn't even think about it. But I just had to fix my own bike.
So you had to learn.
I had to learn. I taught myself. No one was there to teach me.
Wow.
So I just started. I broke a lot of bolts off in my motorcycle and had to replace a lot of things, you know. But I learned from all those experiences.
Yeah.
You know,
experiences is the best teacher. I mean, you know, and kind of fast forwarding a little bit. It's interesting because when we're, I don't know, when we're kind of going through the trenches and everything, we think, I busted but you learn the mechanics of a motor, right? Yeah. And so now, even if you walk out to your truck, you probably know the mechanics of that motor.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I still have a desire to do that. I just know it. I know somebody can do it better, especially in this day and age. You can't work on anything.
No. But remember, in the '60s, man, you could change your oil. You could change your spark plugs.
Yeah.
You could gap them. Now we're dating ourselves.
Right.
You could change the air
you're
filter.
Not really my kind, but I like it. Move it over here.
I hear. That's funny. So that's interesting because, you know, so what age were you when you started doing some business things?
Oh, that's easy. I was 21. I had just got married. I was working at a Pizza Hut.
Really?
Yeah, I tore it down too.
Fixing pizzas?
Yeah, I was assistant manager.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I made a lot of pizza and everything else.
Okay.
You know, you saw me taking out the trash here. Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
That's where I learned it. They used to sell, which I know there's people all over the world. In this city, when the state police were done with their vehicles, they gave them to a dealership, and dealership sold them. It's called Capital Chrysler.
Okay.
Well, I had bought one of those.
Capital Chrysler. Wow.
I had bought one of those used police cars. It was a 73 Dodge Player with a 440 Magnum.
Dang, that's a hoss right there. Yeah.
That was a fun car. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And it was, you know.
Did you get in trouble?
No, well, I didn't get caught.
Okay. Yeah. Right. That's good.
It was state police blue. And at that time, CBs were popular. So I put a CB up on top of my dashboard, covered it with a bandana.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody saw me come down the interstate. They'd all move over. It was great. I just zoomed down the interstate. But I could do it at 100 easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I was working at this Pizza Hut, and I was driving that Dodge Polara, and I started having troubles with it. And there was this salesman from the dealership who used to come in and eat all the time. One day I could not get that car started to save my life, and I needed to get out of there. So he said, "Why don't you just buy a vehicle? I'll help you with it." I ended up buying my first truck.
Okay.
Well, not long after that, within the next year, my dad saw that I had a truck and he could use it. So he walked in.
In his business, right?
Yeah, the opportunity knocked for him. So he walked in one Friday, and he had this binder notebook with all the catalogs of what he sold in it, which I had not much clue.
Okay.
Put it down the countertop and said, "Learn that by Monday. You're going to work." Now I picked my jaw up off the floor. I said, "Okay." So Monday I went to work, and I had a topper on the truck. So we took bread baskets, put a bunch of material in it, put it in the back of my truck, and said, "Go to Beckley."
I love it. I love it.
Stop at this job site. Just tell them who you are and let them look at the back of your truck and see what they say.
I love it.
I did. That's how I got started.
I love
Talking
it.
about being thrown in the fire.
Yeah, but see, that's a huge entrepreneur story, right? Because a lot of people don't get that when they're in business for themselves, if you will. Okay. Because you learned a valuable lesson about entrepreneurship, didn't you?
I did.
I mean, that speaks volumes because, there's, I don't know, when I do some consulting for small businesses and everything, it's interesting because, I ask them some specifics, but I try to understand a little bit more about the specifics before I start guiding them and directing them and everything.
Sure.
Because I asked some people, "Do you have a marketing plan?" I say no. I said, don't do one. Okay. I mean, you don't really need to do one, but if you move forward, okay, and calculate your movement, then you're going to gauge it.
You have to have some form of plan, whether it's a marketing plan or,
yes,
and I kind of learned that also on my own. I went to 3 cities a week, and I planned my day geographically. I had a goal of how many customers I wanted to see.
Right.
And as I was driving, I was by myself. I was able to think about the conversation I was planning to have.
Right.
But the beautiful thing of it is, being in the construction industry, I touched every craft out there. Carpenters, electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, general contractors, painters, drywallers, the whole 9 yards. So if I'm working on something at the house and I have a question, I had a plethora of information available at my fingertips. And so when I learned to do stuff like that, I learned it from a professional that did it in a professional way, and I emulated them. So if you look at the work that I've done in my house, I'm not bragging, it's just how I grew up.
I love it.
I ran a gas line in my house. Well, it's hung on the people on a unistrut and all thread rod, and then it goes straight. I ran through the whole length of the house.
Yeah.
But I only learned that from the people that I could ask questions of out in the field.
See?
How do you do this? And everybody wants to share what they do. And it honors them if you have an interest in what they do.
Right.
Well, that forms a bond of friendship.
It does.
So
Huge.
it leads to, I was a sales organization, but I didn't view myself as a salesman. I viewed myself as I go out and talk to my friends and they buy things from me. And I got to where I didn't have to go out and sell myself. I said, "Hey, how are you doing this?" And they showed me how you're doing this. I said, "I think I got a better idea." And I would share that with them. They'd say, "I need 2 of those." I said, "You're my new friend."
Right. Yeah. Because I can feed my family now. Right? Yeah.
But those people are still my friends today.
Yeah.
I run into people all the time who knew me and who knew my dad, which just honors me incredibly.
Yeah.
And I have all those relationships. And other companies that I've worked for, even after my business, I still have relationships with all of them. And it's just, I love it. I love it. It's you go from sales to being a problem solver. And if you service your customers, even if that means calling your competitor because they need something, you do that. You take care of them. They don't forget that.
Yeah.
They oftentimes I would come out. I was 24/7. I had a guy that was doing work at the local airport and on the runway.
Okay.
And he called me at 2 a.m. and said, "I need very little, but I've got men standing around that can't work because I don't have this, and I know you have it." I said, "I'll be there in a minute." So I went out there. Well, he never forgot that.
No.
And one day he was down here working, and one of my competitors went up and said, "I'd like to have the opportunity to do business with you." And he said, "If I call you at 2 a.m. for just one little thing, and I need it, and I'm 50 miles away, are you going to bring it to me?" He said, "Probably not." He said, "That's why I do business with Bill. He's proved himself." So service is everything.
Well,
not totality, but it's 90% of it.
well, I'm huge on customer service. When I go into eat at a restaurant or something, I'm a casual observer,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think that we we don't take customer service very good. We think, if they have terrible customer service, it's okay, it doesn't matter, But I tell you what, I have had, worked at a contract and company in Florida, and I had a 1.5 million nugget to
Mm-hmm.
crack, and I'd ask people for $50,000-$60,000 for an order,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we hardly ever talked about the sale.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Because relationships are very critical. Relationships are the key to everybody's success.
Mm-hmm.
And even outside the business,
Mm-hmm.
relationships are critical.
Let me tell you something that happened to me at Home Depot yesterday.
Okay.
I was over there looking for a specific light bulb because we're replacing all the lights on the first floor of a house because
Okay.
we're having it redone and painted and stuff.
Okay.
And I couldn't find it. This guy comes up and I said, "Can you help me find this?" Well, as I was standing there talking to him with his bulb in my hand, they don't make that bulb anymore. And this
Okay.
lady comes up and asks about finding a dimmer that she could plug in. So he didn't know anything about it. I knew something about it. I said, here's my phone. Here's a picture of this. Help me find this. I'm going to go help her. You steal my phone, I'm going to kill you. So I said, okay.
I'm going to turn ninja on you.
So I took this lady is real nice, and she didn't have a clue what she was looking for and what she was doing. And over a few hours over, and helped her find what she was looking for.
I love it.
And
Right?
she was thrilled, and I was not having the greatest day, and it just completely turned my day around. If you're having a bad day, go help somebody else, and it'll lift you up. And that did that. I went home and told my wife. I said, "What do you see?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, I'm smiling." She said, "Oh." I said, "Well, there's a reason for that, because I was able to help somebody today,
Right.
and it made my day."
Right.
And then I went and tried to find the manager because that guy came running up with my phone and a box of light bulbs that I needed. And he did a wonderful job.
Okay.
And I didn't have to hurt him.
Yeah, right.
So when I went to check out, I asked for the manager. He wasn't there, but I asked if they could please relate to him. But this guy did a really good job for me. He did me a favor, enabled me to do someone else a favor.
Right.
Now you talk about, us all getting along in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
But it boils back to customer service. This is what I learned in customer service. Someone needed help. You have the ability to help them. Go the extra mile. They don't forget that.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit to
Sure.
your business and some of the artwork that you have on here and everything. Did you incorporate at one particular time for a business?
I did.
Was it an LLC, a corp, S corp?
It was a S corp.
Okay. And why did you do S corp?
Well, it was between an S and a C corp, and honestly, it's so long ago I can't remember what the differentiation was, but it was what my accountant told me to do, and I said yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the S corp is so if you work out of your house, there's more tax advantages on the S corp.
And I did.
Yeah.
I eventually moved down into an office, and as I grew and I started hiring people.
Yeah. Then you can move over into an LLC
or
or
I was
whatever.
working out of my house in the beginning.
Yeah.
And typing invoices at night on a typewriter instead of because
typewriter.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now you're really dating yourself,
I was flying through that thing.
Yeah. So what was the name of your company?
Well, my dad's company was WB Craver Company.
Okay.
And my company was Craver Tool and Supply. And I made the Craver and my logo the same Craver it's on the city of Charleston.
Really?
Yeah. So
okay, so that had some branding appeal.
Branding is everything.
Yeah.
And I made these little stickers that were very, very good. They had Craver Tool and Supply and my phone number, and I handed them out by the thousands. They were on every hard hat, every lunchbox, and every porta potty in 3 states. So if anybody needed to get a hold of me, I was.
So you didn't work. All you did was hand out the little.
All that and
cartridge
pencils and nail aprons. But I found out that through experimentation and the advantages I had from the manufacturers of them helping me, what worked the best and what got the message out the best. And for me and my particular business, and at that time, that's what worked.
Yeah.
And
people don't do that anymore.
No, the hard hat stickers used to be a really big thing, especially when the mines were going and people collected them. And the
Yeah,
more stickers you had on your hat and the worse it looked, the more respect you got because they say, he's been there.
yeah,
He does that.
yeah, yeah. So you had that business. So tell me a little bit about how you got into China, how you got into kind of like the missionary field, and what we talked a little bit about beforehand. Because did you eliminate your tool business and then morphed into another business?
Well, this is going to include my testimony as part of this.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so
Amen.
I lost that business.
Okay.
I was doing very, very well, but there was and everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
There was a mistake made in bookkeeping in my department. An invoice was sent for $8,016. It was supposed to be $80.16.
Okay, that happens.
It
right?
does. It does. And the company I was doing business with, who were dear friends of mine, called me one day and they said, "Bill, I'm selling my company out to a much larger company. We got audited, and there's an invoice here we have a question about. So we need you to come down and take a look at it." I said, "You're right there." So I went down there, and they showed me, and I said, I'm sorry, but this is a mistake. They said, "Okay, we understand that. There's no problem, but we have to have a check today." I said, "Okay." So I went and wrote him a check for $8,000.
Wow.
And this was back in
That's tough.
in the mid-90s. Oh, it gets better.
Okay. All right.
And then I'm going to just say there's this period of time, like a year and a half. I got audited by the state, and they came in and spent 4 days in my office. I provided them with tables like this, and chairs and coffee, and my organizational skills were great. If they asked me for something, I could pull a file out, hand it to them, answered every question they had. They couldn't find anything wrong with my files. Everything was in order, but they had to get something. So in my business, when I would ship something out, there's a cost of doing business.
Sure.
Everything has a price.
Right.
There's nothing that does not have a price in this life. I would pack something up. Well, I have to pay for the cardboard box, the packing tape, the packing, the time it did it, the table it sat on, and the freight charge. And so I included if the freight was $10, I'd make it $12 to cover my cost of shipping.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't pay tax on that. They got me for $1,400.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a customer that went bankrupt, and that was another couple $1,000s. And then the girl that I hired to be a tax specialist, that's all she was responsible for. It's just my taxes. She came up to me and said, "I need a check." I said, "Okay, what for?" She said, "Your taxes." I said, "What taxes?" She said, "Your annuals." I said, "Well, what about the quarterlies?" She said, "What quarterlies?" I went, "What?" She didn't pay my quarterlies.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
The mistake I made in business, and I hope everybody can learn from this, is you got to keep your eye on every aspect of it.
You do.
I had people designated to do specific things, and that was their job, and I trusted them to do their job. So I said, "You do this. This is not my specialty. This is what I'm hiring you for. So I can
Exactly.
go out and do what I do the best."
Thank you.
And
I'll
so,
drive revenue. Yeah.
yeah, and so she said, I said, "Well, what kind of check you need?" She said, $40,000.
What?
That's what I said. So I
That's hard
had
news.
to run down to the bank, get out my credit line at that time, write a check for $40,000. Well, for a small business,
That's a hard hit.
well, it just disrupted my cash flow to the point I couldn't recover.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask you
I
about
struggled,
that.
and my business I was grandfathered into all the manufacturers that I've represented. They were also my friends. I've been there, met all of them across the country, and they were very gracious to me.
Uh-huh.
Some of them said, "Don't worry about it. We're just going to write this off." I ended up selling my business to somebody else. First check I got, I paid off everybody else that,
Okay, good.
Well,
So God did provide.
He did provide.
Yeah.
That guy got really pissed, but that's,
Yeah, but still, yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, and then my wife came in and said, "I want a divorce." Within all
Oh, what a bomb.
that. Yeah.
2 bombs in a row.
Oh, yeah. So I ended up having to take bankruptcy, federal, state,
Okay.
personal bankruptcy, because I was DBA before I was an escort. I was still responsible for it.
Yeah.
So I was working for this guy, sold my stuff to my money I had to pay my wife was $1,000 a month, and that was back in the early mid-90s.
That's tough. That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah. So I left with my guns, my tools, my clothes, and a trailer. You
Okay.
call it all in.
All right.
Moved into this little house, and that was in September. So that following Christmas, my first Christmas alone.
That's tough too.
I was lowering a snake belly in a wagon wheel rut.
Okay.
I was, facing all this tornado,
Yes.
hurricane of stuff.
And your heart was really wrenched too.
Oh, I was just torn to pieces. That's not something I wanted.
No.
So Christmas Eve comes. Nobody was around. No friends, no family. My kids were with their mom. I was just totally alone. So I decided to take a shower, get a 6-pack, watch Shogun.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, well,
right?
I thought at the time, yeah. So, but for some reason, I'm not going to say for some reason, because of the Lord, I got on my knee before I opened the beer, and I said, Lord, I need a little help here. That's all I said. But my beer, watched the movie, life went back to the way it was the next day. All of a sudden, over the period between Christmas and like March, April,
okay,
something changed inside me.
I love it.
And I found one day I realized I wasn't cussing anymore. I didn't even realize it.
Okay.
I lost that. And
okay.
So I was, all of a sudden I was happy. I had joy. I should not be having joy here. My dad died right after that too.
Oh, wow.
The following June.
Wow.
Then I got engaged and lost that too. Anyway, yeah. So it's just, everything again happens for a reason. In that spring, I told people what was going on. And 3 different people said, it sounds like you're getting religion. Why don't you go to this church and tell them what you just told us and see what they say.
Get religion?
That's what they told me.
That
was the phrase. So
I don't know about getting religion, man.
Well,
You're talking about getting Jesus.
Well, they didn't know.
Yeah.
So I started going to Maranatha Fellowship, and I went in there, and I found that I had this little Bible, it was like a 5x7 red letters zipper around it with my name in it.
Those are great.
Yeah, I still got it. It's in my safe.
Okay.
And I started reading it. Man, that thing talked to me.
Yeah.
And I turn the page and go, wow. Well, if you're a new Christian, people say, where do you start the Bible? You're mostly recommended to start in the book of John. No one told me that. I started in the book of Acts. You want to start at someplace powerful. That's the way to start.
Yeah.
So I was literally thrown in the fire of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I could not get enough of that church. I was there every time the doors were open.
I love it.
So later on that spring, at that time, I'm going to call it the golden age of church in this area.
Okay.
Brownsville Revival was really going strong. We sent buses down there.
Wow.
Spirit was moving in our church. People were getting saved, falling all over the floor. It was just an incredible place. The Holy Spirit was really moving. And the Sunday nights of worship was so strong, praise and worship, that Pastor barely got a few words in to preach. But he started on Galatians 5:22, which is fruits of the Spirit.
Right.
So fruits of the Spirit are joy, peace, kindness, long-suffering, because I can't think of the right words. And I was sitting there listening to that and going, okay, I'm in this world of hurt. I've got joy. I've got peace that goes beyond all understanding. I'm going through all this. It doesn't seem to faze me. So the only way I can explain that is I got saved. And
there you go.
I get choked up.
Yeah.
Every time I tell this.
Amen.
And
That's cool,
I just,
brother.
Man, the stars lined up, the doors open, the grass got greener, the sky got bluer. And I went out and I told everybody, I think I just got saved.
I love it.
At that time,
God is good.
there was a company that had a permanent contract at Monsanto plant, which is not there anymore.
I know.
And I did a ton of business with him. I was down there a couple of days a week, and I walked into the trailer one day, and there was this guy, big hawking guy named Bob Gibson. He had a window at the end of his trailer, so he could sit at his desk and look at what people were doing on the job site. And I walked in, and I noticed a Bible on his desk. I would stand up and say this because I have to, even though they can't see me.
Yeah.
And I looked down the Bible, and I said, he was back to me and said, Bob, whose Bible is that? And he turned around, he looked at me and said, that's mine. He's looking down at me saying, that's mine. I'm going, okay, I think I just got saved. And he teared up and I teared up and we hugged and we had church on the spot. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And that started happening over and over. Everywhere I went, there were Bibles. They were there the whole time, but I never saw them.
Yeah,
never had any idea.
Right.
And it was just it was revival. It was just for months and months it was like that.
Yeah.
So
when God turns up the spigot, you got to be savvy enough to understand you might be the water that's flowing right now.
Well, I totally agree. Totally agree. One thing I did not have then, and I have a heart for now, is discipleship. I know it's getting a little off, but I'll reel me back in.
Cool.
When I was a new Christian, I had no idea what I was doing, nothing to read. I was just digging in. Every moment I wasn't doing something else, I had that book in my hand and I was reading it. And it was fascinating to say the least. Now, when people get saved, say they get saved at a church, I didn't go to the altar. I didn't have
No, you don't
anybody
have
help me.
to.
No, you don't have to.
You don't
Absolutely
have
not.
to.
But sometimes they say, okay, great, you're saved now. We've prayed for you. You're forgiven of your sins, and there's the world. Here's a booklet. Well, you're kind of just thrown out there, and you don't know what to do.
To the wolves.
To the wolves, exactly, and that's what they are.
They are
A
wolves.
roaring lion.
Yep.
That's what Satan does.
Big time.
Roam the earth like a roaring lion, look for someone to devour. So I have a heart for discipleship for new Christians. My wife has a heart for shut-ins. We're hoping that the church that we're going to now, we can get involved in ministry for that we can both do together.
Awesome.
And we'll see what the Lord does with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important. Both
Yeah.
those things are very important. And that's what we have a heart for. So that's what we're asking for right now.
Cool.
So there's my testimony in a nutshell.
Amen. I appreciate that a lot. That's going to speak to a lot of people on the pod.
I hope so.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your China gig.
After the divorce, like a lot of people do, I was lonely, and I love Chinese food.
You love Chinese food?
And I love Chinese food. And
Okay,
I used to go to this restaurant, and there was this beautiful Chinese lady with her braided hair all the way down her back. And I just watched her, and she was just nice as can be. And I struck up a conversation, and we ended up dating.
Did you speak Chinese at that time?
Not at that time.
Okay.
I'd already, and no, let me clarify this before I say I do not have a thing for Asian women, just things that happen. I was dating this lady from Korea that I met at church.
Okay.
And we got engaged. That didn't go either. I sent her back to Korea for 2 months to see her parents she hadn't seen in 8 years.
Okay.
She spent 3 weeks at a place called Prayer Mountain in Seoul, which was at the time the largest church in the world, pastored by David Yonggi Cho. Came back and said, "It's not you." I said, "Okay."
She
moved on.
She went to the monks to give that message.
Her mom had to go and get her off the mountain. She didn't want to believe it, but that's what the Lord said, and she was a great Christian woman, and I have the greatest respect for her for that.
Right.
So anyway, I just happened to see this girl and started talking to her, and we ended up going out, and we ended up getting married.
Okay.
And there's a lot of story in between there that's just not applicable.
Let's try to focus on your business in China.
Okay. I ended up working for a company corporately. There was a fastener supply company.
Okay.
And they were nationally and internationally. I landed the first contract with them for construction that they'd never had before.
Okay.
And they said, okay, a year later from when I introduced myself to a purchasing agent, said, we'd like to have a national agreement with you. It came to fruition. I got a call from headquarters in Minnesota and said, well, Bill, you opened this can of worms. If you want to run it, you can run the whole thing. We don't know what we're doing. You started this. So if you want it, it's yours. But you got to be in Charlotte in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I packed up everything and my new wife, and we moved to Charlotte.
I love it.
To Mooresville, North Carolina. It was fantastic. I was on a plane 3 to 4 nights a week because they didn't tell me that the company that I got the contract with had 9 divisions. And I was going around the country to implement this contract. So time goes by. I ended up, they told me I had to work out of a distribution center. The next one was in Atlanta. I said, it's still snowing on me in North Carolina. Sent me south.
Yeah.
So I was in Atlanta. I found this wonderful church to go to called Noonan Crossroads Church. And they had a karate school in there. So I got integrated with that. And it's another story. They had a seminar on teaching English as a second language, ESL.
Okay.
And I had a great desire for that. I was doing it anyway because I had a new Chinese stepson that I brought over from China when he was 14.
Wow. Okay.
And so I had to learn to teach him English, which was a very difficult language to learn.
I bet you it is.
So is Chinese.
Yeah, so you're right. It's
a
double-edged sword right there.
Yeah, they're real close to how difficult they are. So I met this couple, Don and Myrna Hines, in there, and they were missionaries to China. They were in there for the same reason I was. And so we became dear friends. And I ended up leaving the company I was working for, and I went out on my own. I said, I'm looking for a business to do. I'd love the mission field, but that door's not opening. And they said, well, we have a company. We know a friend that has a company that does business with China. We'd like to introduce you to. His name's Randy Anderson.
Okay.
And he lived in, I think, Rocket Center, Florida. You can see the launch pads.
Okay, wow. All right.
And so I called him, and that's what this is. It's called a polyresin figurine. I know your viewers can't see this. And the one we're looking at is Jesus going out to grab Peter when Jesus was walking on the water and called Peter out, and he was walking on the water until he started getting scared and started to sink.
Mm-hmm.
And this figurine depicts Jesus grabbing onto Peter to pull him out and said, "Oh, ye of little faith."
Amen.
You know.
Yeah.
And so this company is in the 6th ring of Beijing, China. It's called New Day Creations. They're still out there. You can find them on the internet.
Okay.
Although their internet's changed, they sold polyresin figurines, custom and stock stuff, to the Christian community all over the world.
Okay.
And Randy gave me that business. He said, I'm not able to do the business, the volume of business they really want, because they operate 2 orphanages from the business proceeds. So I think you can grow this business, so I'm going to give it to you. So
wow.
Okay. So I ended up doing I have a friend that lives in a place in China I can't mention. We went there.
That's fine.
On the same basis, but ended up staying and is still there to this day.
Okay.
And opened a manufacturing facility, and he and I became good friends through the same introduction. And I did a show with him, an international show to the Christian sales community, like the used to be all prevalent.
Yeah.
And
bookstores,
yeah, and just Christian stores and Bibles and stuff. I ended up getting orders from Germany and orders from Ghana and orders from all over the U.S.
Did you hear that, Ghana people?
Yeah. And so that really put me on the map, and that business continued. Then I also got introduced to Trinity Broadcast Network.
Did you really?
That was when Paul and Laura Crouch were there. Wow.
And did you really?
Yeah, I went there.
Wow.
I got to sit on that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
how cool is that?
Oh, it was very cool.
Yeah.
Well, they have a collection of stained glass windows.
Okay.
That they showed me. Anyway, this business on the polyresin figurines, I got a call one day. I was doing okay, and I really enjoyed it. I got a call one day from a company in Illinois that said, "We'd like to have your business."
Oh, wow.
Okay. Why? Because we're buying in container loads when you're buying in piecemeal. And if we buy in container loads, it's going to be better for the manufacturer who operates these 2 orphanages. So I held my hands out. I said, "Here it is." I gave it to them. It was given to me. I gave it to them.
That's awesome.
So that led me to this other business on the stained glass that you see.
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Okay, Donna Myrna kicked in again." They said, "There's a guy in Tampa this week that we want you to go meet."
Wow.
And he's from Richardson, Texas, right above Dallas, and he's doing a show also for the Christian community, for Christian stores across the country, and we think you all would get along, so go down there. So I did. I got dressed in my finest suit. I went down there and worked the show with him, and we just became brothers right there on the spot. That was just a God thing.
Yeah. I call him God winks.
Yeah.
Right.
He did.
Yeah.
And he had contracts with most major museums already, reproducing fine works of art and stained glass windows into a medium called painted art glass panels.
Okay.
And this was reproducing fine art from Monet, mostly from Louis Comfort Tiffany, who was the son of the Tiffany jeweler.
Wow.
And Frank Lloyd Wright, who was an architect at his time.
Exactly.
That was their two main focuses. And also
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there was others in.
And by the way, they're absolutely beautiful on the table here that we're looking at. I mean, they're awesome. They're very, very beautiful.
Roger did the marketing, and I did sales. And again, I started traveling again. And this is where Trinity Broadcast Network came in. I was invited to go there, and they showed me all these stained glass windows, and they said, "You can reproduce these?" I said, "Yeah." The minimum was 200 of anything.
Okay.
So they gave me an order for $52,000 on the spot.
Oh, I love it.
To reproduce more than these 2. These are 2 of the windows, and these are from Germany. This is from the 1500s. But this painted art glass is not like stained glass where you have lead and you use the glass in it. This is produced with paint mixed with oxides, put on a basic layer of glass by layer and fired each time until you get the colors you want.
Oh,
it's
my.
a very tedious process. This is done in Xiamen, China, by a factory there, and the owner is Bill Job, who is from Knoxville, Tennessee. Actually, he came and interviewed me in a Ford Cobra.
Oh gosh.
All we did was go sideways up the interstate ramp, and he
Right.
went the next exit, turned around, and said, "Okay, we're in."
I love it. Yeah.
And I had to.
They're gorgeous.
I ended up working 3 jobs to get this business up and running. And I was living in Georgia. I was still importing some of this and other things. Oh, by the way, let me back up. I get my timeline.
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Trinity Broadcast Network, TBN, bought the Holy Land Experience in Winter Park, Florida.
Oh, really?
Outside of Orlando.
Okay.
And they used to buy all kinds of stuff from me. So I did business with also other vendors in China. And because my wife she's fluent in Mandarin.
Okay.
She helped me to communicate with some of these people.
Sure.
They did a little Ark of the Covenant box. It had a removable lid with Aaron's budded staff and the 10 Commandments in there. They bought 6,000 at a time.
Oh my!
These were little things, but it was a big business.
Yeah, it is.
They bought these rubberized keychains, 10,000 at a time.
Yeah.
I love this business.
I know.
It was really cool.
You know what? I mean, businesses like this, and I'm helping Tara and everything, and I'm having fun with that because I think once it gets into your psyche and your being, I mean, to move forward, I think that it's pretty awesome.
I would call it passion.
Well, that's a better word, passion, because I have entrepreneurship in my heart. Okay. I mean, and so I think it's a passion of mine to help small businesses and I even help them for free. I don't charge, and, but I think it's interesting. Your story is very interesting and I just, we have a few minutes left and I just want to say thank you very much. And if you were to summarize your experience, how would you do that? And what suggestions would you do to the people that are listening to this?
Well, my experience is if I were to summarize them, I'm so blessed to have had the opportunities that I've had. All these led to the wife of my dreams, which I met 13 years ago, and where I sit with you today. So. And I tried to learn from each one of those things. I'm going to speak to what I think is important in small businesses since we're talking about entrepreneurship. You asked me to tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm a child of God. That's first, and that's my center, and that's my base, and that's what led to everything else that I was able to do in my life. The second thing is honesty and integrity with your sisters or brothers.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
Right.
Take care of your customers. Do what's right and honest, even if it's to your detriment, because you'll reap huge rewards later.
Yeah.
That's when I spoke earlier about if I didn't in the construction industry as an example, I was doing with contractors that had people on the job that needed material. They needed it right then. And so they're paying these people $20 to $30 an hour to stand there, wait on me. That made me I need to get there,
ASAP.
And if I didn't have it, I'd go somewhere and pick it up. Get it to them. I don't care if I made any money on it or not. The problem that customer service is everything. Make yourself presentable, be honest, and have integrity in your business.
Cool.
And people will relate to that. Although with all the computers and all the online businesses, I still want to look you in the eye and shake your hand and say thank you for your business. There's still a big need for that. We're humans. We're not computers.
Right.
And we can order off of any of the online businesses, but there's no personal interaction there.
No.
Well, that leads to relationships. That's where I was able to become a problem solver due to relationships that I still have today.
Yeah.
And so that the value of that is, I don't know how to describe it.
Well, you just did. And I really appreciate, the story is so valuable, in business and entrepreneurships and your faith and how that is played into everything that you've done. It's the center of you. It's the center of me. And I really appreciate your coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me. I love the conversation.
Yeah. See, it's all about conversation.
It's all interacting with people, and we need each other.
Yeah.
In this time and day, we desperately need each other. Yeah. So we can put
Yeah.
aside our differences and
Yes.
help each other because the time's short.
Yep. Amen. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch.
All right. Appreciate it.